Hey guys, it's Dodson.
This is Burke.
Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut came out. Let's talk about it.
Let's be about it. Let's not talk about it.
That's right. So, starting up, obviously it came out, PS5 and PS4 release. We're looking at anywhere from $10 to $70, depending on if you invested on Ghost of Tsushima before. What's your thought on the pricing first?
Hopefully you already had it, so you're only spending a fraction of the cost.
Oh, for sure. I mean, starting right out the way, I'm going to tell you I'm a little biased toward this because this was my absolute favorite game on the PS4.
One of them, for sure. Top-notch gaming right here.
Is it in the top three for you?
Absolutely. For right now, for what's out there, top three, no doubt.
Best game of the generation for me, so take that with a grain of salt when I tell you about my grade at the end of this. But pricing-wise, I think what we're looking at was $10 just to jump from PS4 to PS5 if you already bought the Director's Cut.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't have the Director's Cut already, you're looking at $30 to go from a regular PS4 version to the PS5 version, all the way on up to $70 if you're coming in brand new for the first time.
Which, spoiler alert, I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it. If you're brand new coming into it, you've not touched this game, you got to check it out. You got to.
And I'd agree with that. It is definitely worth checking out, even at the $70 price point. I mean, you're getting a whole game, which I think the original one was probably 40, 50 hours of story for me. But I think after all the collectibles and secondary missions, side missions, and everything there is to do in this game, I think I have probably over 100 hours in the original one. Another 20 in the Director's Cut alone.
So let's talk about the game then here. Graphic-wise, you're not going to see a big improvement, right? I mean, if you've got the 4, I feel like they juiced it already. The 5, I think there was an upgrade, like you said.
Beginning of the year, I think they released a PS5 upgrade for it, jumped it up to 4K 60 on the PS5, even for the original game. So graphic-wise, no improvements going into the Director's Cut. There's some pretty new scenery, definitely on the new island, over on Icky Island.
So pretty, though.
One thing this game does right, which you'll notice as soon as you play, is a lot of the cutscenes, a lot of the slow scenes when you're coming out of a mission or going into a mission, they know exactly where to position it to make it look gorgeous.
Yep. No doubt about it.
So visual-wise, if you're looking at it as a brand new game and not just a DLC that you're purchasing, it is one of the better-looking games that was on the PS4. PS5, it's not exactly pushing the limits, but it is still an absolutely gorgeous game. You will spend a ton of time in the very robust photo mode.
And what you are getting on the 5, though, is quicker load times, even though on the 4 they still were pretty amazing. But it's almost instantaneous now, which traversing the map sometimes, fast traveling, makes it so nice.
Yeah, it's definitely a game where you are okay traveling the countryside because it is gorgeous to go through, and once you get that bond going with your horse throughout the game, you kind of want to spend more time on them instead of fast traveling. But once you finish the game and you're trying to pick up all those collectibles and side quests, that fast travel really comes in handy. And it's amazing that you can jump from a fully detailed, huge draw distance, south side of the island, all the way to the north side of the island with almost zero load time on the PS5.
Yep. So
outside of those updates, you also have the DualSense haptic feedback. Get to feel the sword play and the triggers and the bow, especially when you pull back on the bow. It's a little added detail. Didn't add too much to the game for me like it does on, say, a racing game, but it's nice to have. It's there.
Yeah, I'd say, I guess maybe it's just being a PS5 owner already. I've not really noticed it enough where it really had an impact, but it's a nice little add-on feature, I will say.
Kind of gimmicky. Doesn't really add a lot to it. Could have done without it. Wouldn't have noticed.
Yeah. 100%.
The 3D audio support, I use a set of Pulse 3D headset, and it is not too much more noticeable. The game already had amazing sound design. I mean, there's stories of people out there that played it without ever looking at it. Blind guy played it just based off sound. You can do all the fights based off of sound cues. I didn't really notice too much of a difference on it jumping to the new Director's Cut, but overall, amazing sound design on the game. I mean, the music that comes in, the voice acting is great. Speaking of voice acting, they added in Japanese lip sync for it. Not a feature that I personally used.
But if you're
You mess
into
around
that,
with it at all?
if you're nope, I have not. But if you're into that anime and all that other good stuff, maybe it's something you check out. Why not?
Well, it definitely adds another level of immersion to it, but it's not going to be for everybody, and the English voice actors did an amazing job. The fact that they didn't just take home every award there was, I thought was a crime last year.
I'd agree.
But moving past the upgrades and how it looked, how'd you feel about how it played? How'd the new island do you?
So the new island, it's not a massive island, but I wasn't expecting just a exorbitantly large map, but I think they did it justice. They added some new visuals in that you didn't see, some different areas, but I still loved it. Like I said, I'm biased toward this game. They could have given me nothing, a white screen, and I probably would have played it and loved it too.
Yeah, the story I didn't think was going to be something that I absolutely loved. I mean, the original one was great. The new DLC on Iki Island, I saw the trailer for it. I thought, well, this is a story that's kind of been done before.
Yeah.
It's very Far Cry-esque on all the trips that you have to take going through the Eagle tribe, Eagle clan, the Mongolians that are poisoning you.
Yep.
But they add just enough to be new. It's new story, some of your same favorite characters from the original story. Obviously, you come in kind of hampered, and you have to get some of your gear, some of your ability back. You get some new things. I think there's one new set of armor in the monkey armor. You get some horse armor, a couple new abilities. It's enough to keep it more interesting and keep it diverse from what you originally played.
Yeah, I think you get, 3 or 4 resolve points, actually. A couple for your horse, and I think 2 or so maybe for a couple unlocks on Iki Island for finding the different...
Yeah, the exploration unlocks.
Exploration, yeah.
Yeah, it's enough to add to it, and Iki Island, I think, was probably 6 to 7 hours if you're just banging through the story, obviously not doing all the secondary stuff, the new shrines, which even adding in that small stuff just adds to the depth of the game. Instead of going to the fox shrines and petting a fox in the original island, you now have different shrines with deer and with cats and just different animals that you can interact with, and they added a new flute minigame, or whatever the instrument is called, I don't remember. But that new minigame is just another level, really showing off the good sound design, and it makes more use of the 6-axis on the controller, the way you control it. I think overall 6-7 hours is pretty good for a DLC. I mean, we're not talking Witcher level 40 hours of DLC, but it is well done. There's plenty of action. It's good cutscenes. It's well narrated. It all makes sense. There's a satisfying ending to it. I liked it.
I'd agree. And, unlike Destiny, I do feel like it's not new enemies, but they gave a couple enemies some new abilities, which is refreshing in the game, unlike, I will say, Destiny. Though I do love Destiny still, so I'm not trying to bring that in here, but just a comparison.
Yeah, it does get repetitive unless you're not seeing crazy new things, but you are seeing a change up of some of the tactics of the enemies, which is enough to keep combat fresh.
Yep.
I know going back to the director's cut after having the original version, I was kind of rusty on combat anyway, and then them throwing in a couple more curveballs by having enemies switch from a polearm to a sword to a shield really keeps you on your toes and makes you use different stances.
Yeah, and especially if you're a person, too, probably like us, that already beat the original story, and then you're coming into the expansion, it's going to be refreshing, because I got my butt kicked quite a bit until I figured out how to play the game again, and then just like you said, the new enemies made it a little bit more challenging because they've got some new tweaks to them that just make the game fresh. So absolutely. I love it.
And then as a freebie bonus, the Legends mode, which was a free release last year, great multiplayer standalone, would have been amazing.
They could have
was completely free.
They could have packaged that up and sold that, and I'd have bought it too.
Absolutely.
That's how good it was.
They added to that. They added 2 new survival maps, which are to come later. Kind of shorten the time you do survival, and then added a new 2v2 rivals mode, which we've played around with a little. We had a couple matches, some successful, some not.
Yep.
And it's an interesting mode.
It's something different, again, like for what they had time to work on. I think it's not bad. It's another twist to it. I think what did they raise I don't want to say level cap. What did they raise on there? There's a whole other unlock tree for your characters.
Yeah, your key, which previously capped at 110, now goes up even higher when you got the curse gear and the mastery on items.
Yep.
It just adds a little bit more to the already free great mode that we spent a lot of time in.
A lot of time. And the one thing I would say on the multiplayer, I do wish that they would add some matchmaking for the raid. Or if you want to, whatever they call it. I call it the raid, but
I think matchmaking for the raid, the Curse of IO, whatever it was, would be great. I mean, me, you, and one other, we went through most of it, even though it's a 4-man raid. We went through most of it as a 3-man until we got stopped by mechanics. It wasn't that we couldn't progress based on skill. It was a mechanic that required 4 people stopped us. So just having a 4th person, and Destiny used the same excuse back in the day that, hey, it's way too difficult. You have to be a cohesive 4-person unit. I don't buy into that.
Yeah.
Well, now that we talked about all the new additions, why don't we give 2 different gradings for it? Why don't you tell me first, if you're looking at it as just the $30 PS4 to PS5 upgrade, just the Iki Island DLC and what's added, what do you think?
For me, it's a buy. It's a buy, as I said before, because it's a quality game in itself. I like the developer. I like the game. I think it's worth your money. So I'm saying it's a buy for just the expansion.
And I'd have to agree. At $30 or $20 if you already had the PS5 version of the original one that you already upgraded to for some reason, it is worth it. Iki Island adds enough of the story, especially if you liked the first game, and I absolutely loved the original. It is 100% worth buying at $30. Some people are going to look at the 6 to 8 hours that it takes, but I think that's well worth it, especially if you get into the additional content. It's one game I have to jump in, and I had to finish the week that I got it.
Yeah.
Looking at the game as a whole, $70 buying in for the first time. What do you think?
I'm still a buy. Like you were just saying, it's a game for me that once I started, I didn't want to stop, and very few games have done that for me recently. So for me, another buy, all in.
I'm going to agree with you on that as well. It was my game of the generation on the PS4. Having it on the PS5 with the subtle improvements and the Iki Island DLC is just an amazing experience. So far with PS5 being out almost a year that we're coming up on, there hasn't been too many games that I would say, oh, you got to get this. I would recommend it. But if you have not played Ghost of Tsushima, absolutely buy in today.
Must.